Guys, welcome to my channel again. My book review regarding one of the best books I've ever read and most probably you'll ever read if you go around and give it a go. I'm talking about The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. This is my first time reading his book and oh my gosh, does literature gets any better than that? I hope you enjoy reading it. The Richest Man in Babylon is a fable that illustrates the reason for the success of ancient Babylon, one of the richest cities in the world. At the time, it was a simplified version of the current economy because money was already used for exchange at the time and there were even loans. The book tells the adventures of several characters, including Arcad is my favorite character. Is a boy who works very hard while applying the principles of wealth, which allows him to become the richest man in Babylon, and this by their freedom. When I was young, Arcad was a scribe who worked hard. He quickly noted that while money doesn't give happiness, it can contribute greatly to improving their quality of life. It was then when he began his search for knowledge to learn how to generate more money and thus be able to have a freer and fuller life. Arcad then decides that the best way to learn is by asking those who have been successful and not miss any opportunity to do so. For example, one day a very rich man gives him 2 days to carry it out. Arcad agrees to work all night without rest in exchange for the man to teach him some rules of how money works. The advice that the latter gives is as follows: I found the path of wealth when I decided the part of everything I earned had to belong to me. The same will be true for you. Arcad is then somewhat disappointed by this principle, as he thought it was obvious that everything he earned belonged to him. It is then when he rich man explains to you that from the moment in which the expenses and you become your slave, the solution is to leave the 10% of your income aside and make sure that this amount is not spent. This way you will not even notice that you are missing 10% of your income, but this will still be yours. Arcad realizes that it isn't going to be a path of roses and that he will have to continue working hard to achieve it. After several failed attempts, Arcad finally manages to apply the principle that the rich man had taught him. The later, seeing that Arcad was a good disciple, decided to put him in charge of a part of his business. Thanks to the successful management of the rich man's business, he also becomes rich. In fact, it manages to overcome the wealth of the later since Arcad came to become the richest man in Babylon. But he always kept in mind that money is nothing more than an instrument to be able to enjoy life to the fullest. The book continues telling stories of the life of Arcad and other inhabitants of Babylon. Each of these stories, which ultimately take the form of recommendations by Arcad, allows to illustrate and explain the following 7 ways of acquiring wealth, or according to the book, ways to fill an empty bag. The first way is start filling your bag. It is about following the first advice Arcad received in his youth and saving 10% of everything one earned. The second, control your expenses. It is important to make a list of all our expenses in order to know where the money is going. Once the list is made, you have to choose the expenses that are mandatory and that are within the limits of 90% of our income. The rest we can forget without thinking, considering them as part of the multitude of desires that should remain without satisfaction. The third one is make your goal fruit. In the words of Arcad, the wealth of a man isn't in the coins he carries in the stock market, but in the fortune he amasses, the stream that flows continuously and feeds. It is what every man wants, what any of you wants, a source of income that continues progressing, you're working or traveling. In other words, it is about investing your money intelligently, so that it generates more interest, better than better. The fourth way is protect your treasures from any loss. Before making any investment, we must carefully study the situation and make sure that we can claim it safely. We must not let ourselves be dragged by the romantic desires of making fortune quickly. You have to be fully aware of the dangers that any investment can present. Otherwise, we can lose the money that so much effort and time has cost us to gather. The 5 ways is make your property a profitable investment. The 5th way to fill an empty bag is to own a home. In short, Arcad believes that it's preferable to own a home than to live rented. The reason is that the cost of living will be much to reduce and will make you spend a large part of your profits to the pleasures and satisfy your desires. The 6th way, secure income for the future. It is important to make sure that we will have income in the future when we can no longer work or we are no longer here, to make sure that our children doesn't miss anything. For this, we must accumulate wealth as soon as possible. Some of the ways recommended by the richest man in Babylon for this is to invest real estate or loans that earn interest. And the last one, 7th way, is increase your ability to acquire goods. In the words of Arcad, more knowledge we acquire, the money we will earn. A man's business changes and thrives because insightful men try to improve themselves to be more useful to their superiors. So large all men to progress and don't to stay without doing anything unless they want to be left out. So the 7th and the last way to make fortune is to cultivate the intellectual faculties, study and educate and respecting oneself. So although the style of the book is somewhat biblical at times, I strongly recommend reading it financial education, and it's very enjoyable and not expensive. For me, it seems reasonable to read the book from which all these ideas emanate. Surely you don't regret it, since it is really a book that will make you reflect and change for good your relationship with the money. If you are interested, you can read it by clicking on the link below here. I recommend it.